Hello and welcome everybody out there in Speed Gaming land. My name is TheSchwantz27 and I will be your host tonight for Final Fantasy VI Worlds Collide, the Final Fantasy VI Open World Randomizer. So we are going to be watching a race between four of our very best competitors in the exclusive Mega Elixir division of our Ultros League. That is the top tier division in the entire Ultros League. So these are some of the best 8 players in the entire community. Falcon Hit currently in first place in the division with 15 points. Boo is in 4th, Javinator is in 5th, and Dozen is in 6th. So they are hoping to make some time up in their division here by hoping to run a really good race. And what is it that we're watching? Well, we're watching Final Fantasy VI randomized. All of the items in shops and chests, the characters that you get, the abilities that you have, that they have rather, the espers you get, the spells that are taught on those espers, all the bosses are shuffled from their vanilla places. So it's kind of like a puzzle trying to put it all together. And how do you win? Well, you see it right there, Objective A. You need to recruit 6 characters and find 9 espers. So those are the numbers in gold there. On our tracking sheet, those are the goals for this particular seed. And we do get to unlock a Kefka Tower skip if we recruit either 9 characters or find 12 espers. If we go too heavy on one or the other, then we could skip right to the boss gauntlet in Kefka's Tower, and the objective of the game is to beat Kefka. So we'll see what our runners are starting with. We do start with 3 characters, so that's why you see the white number in 3 here. And based on the characters we start with, that is what the different world events we can go see are. And at each of the world events, we'll be rewarded with either a character, an esper, or an item. Some checks, as they're called, will only reward certain rewards. They could be either esper item or they could be character esper, and we'll go through it as we sort of get this race on. Any questions, just let me know in the chat. ff6worldscollide.com is our website where you could play your own seed if this looks exciting to you. So I did some of the player introductions. In the upper left-hand corner is Doesn't, who is actually the Ultros League Season 1 champion. We are currently on Season 3, so he's in the brown trim there with the white lettering. We've got Javinator there in the slate with the orange. We've got Falcon Hit currently in first place and just finished on top of the Coliseum 2 tournament we just held in the standard blue and white. And then over in the purple and white is one of our admins, Boo. So we got some incredible runners in this particular race here. So I'm really excited to see what happens. Like I said, they are battling for some supremacy. In our league, it's sort of like a Mario Kart type league where the points are awarded based on where you finish within your division. So first place is worth 9 points, second place is worth 6 points, third place is worth 4, and then 3 and 2 and 1 and so on. So getting in either first or second for the week is really, really helpful. These are only 4 of the 8 runners in the division. There are some runners that have already finished their times. So we have to keep that in mind. There's only one person that finished with the time, and their time is 1:33:32. So that is the time that some of these other runners are hoping to beat here, and we'll see if we can get that. We can get those things started. I'm going to give the runners the 30-second countdown, and we should be starting very shortly. So let me know which team you're on. Are you on Team Doesn't? Are you on Team Jav, Team Boo, or Team Falcon Hit in the chat? We've already got a couple of shout outs there from some of our runners here. So one of the interesting things about Ultros League Season 3 is that we added a brand new world event to the game. So if we come across Mog unlocks a brand new check called the Moogle Defense. It's basically that part at the very beginning of the game as our runners are off and going. We'll see which characters they have. They've got Go-Go and Celeste and Realm. Realm has got Rage, and Celeste has Capture. So Rage is interesting because unlike in the vanilla game, you don't have to do the leap mechanic like Gao does in vanilla. Whenever you fight a particular enemy, you automatically just know their particular rage. So that's a really cool thing about Worlds Collide, a nice quality of life improvement here. I see Siegfried, which is Flare, Magic Urn, which is Cure 3. There's Ogre, which I believe is Pearl, and there's Io, which is Flare Star. In the menu now, you actually can see what the abilities of those particular monsters are, which is one of the newest things that we got in our brand new 1.12 update. Everybody on the left-hand side of the screen is looting Narsh, and they get a nice offering and a clock there, so that might be useful for later. A couple of Magus hats in that armor shop to pick up there for Falcon Hit. Meanwhile, Boo is in the Returner's hideout, while Javinator is headed to South Figaro. So one of the characters that we have, Celeste, does open up a check in South Figaro, the South Figaro prisoner, where you recruit Celeste in the vanilla game, and there's no required fight down there for it. So you could literally just walk down there and grab that particular reward. So I'm expecting most of our runners to go do that immediately right away. Celeste also opens up the Opera House disruption, where Ultros crashes down upon the opera, and also opens up the Magitech factory, which is actually a 3-part check, meaning you get 3 different rewards from the 3 different spots in that particular check, which is really nice to see. Realm opens up Esper Mountain, where you recruit her in vanilla in the World of Balance, and in the World of Ruin, Owzer's Mansion, where you recruit her in the second half of the game. Go-Go only opens up 1 check, and that is their Zone Eater check, which is where you find them in the vanilla game, and it is Setzer as a character there for Javinator in the South Figaro basement, so that's a nice character to see right away. Let's see what Setzer does have, if we are shown. Meanwhile, Falcon Hit and doesn't with a nice sync there going into the Returner's hideout. So it looks like they did just the opposite of what Boo is doing here. I didn't catch what Setzer's ability was, but if Javinator decides to take a grind fight down here, then we'll see. We do give our runners 3 Moogle Charms, so that's 1 for each party in Kefka's Tower, where they can choose to keep the Moogle Charm on in order to avoid those random encounters, or they could take it off and start doing some grind fights in order to gain some levels. Levels are the most important thing in Worlds Collide, more important than all of the different beepity bops that you get for your team, and it looks like that's what Javinator is doing, and it is a magic urn, which is a fight that only gives you MP, so he's wisely running away from this one here. And Realm already has this in the Rage list, so there's no reason to try and actually defeat these enemies here. As I mentioned, with Rage, you don't have to do the Leap command, you just earn the enemy's attacks after you defeat them in battle. So here's a much better fight in terms of actually granting XP. 24,000 GP in the World of Balance for that item that Tizen Thief is selling. If he was selling an Esper, it would say in the text, for this shiny stone, it's however much money. So Boo, seeing that it is not an Esper, decides that he does not want to throw down 24,000 right away in the beginning of the seed. He'd rather save it for something like that Snow Muffler there, 61k. Some more magic urns here for Javinator. At least he did get the 1 fight against the Tuscarin, which would help. And we'll see where our runners decide to go. Looks like Doesn't is doing the under the water, under the sea, in South Figaro there. Boo, meanwhile, exiting out of Tizen, so we'll see if he decides to go through the bottom of South Figaro here, as he is going to go over into the World of Ruin. So the chests in the World of Ruin, South Figaro, on the outside areas are actually different, so you can double dip the chests here. The chests in the basement you can only grab once, no matter what the particular location is. So we'll see if he picks up anything here in the World of Ruin. Doesn't heading all the way over to this barrel here. This is a 10 or 11 second time trip for that chest. It is a remedy, so that is something that could be useful if you need to cure a status ailment. I'll leave it up to you, viewers at home, to decide whether or not that's worth the 11 seconds to go all the way over and get that. Now that Javinator has Setzer, the Coal Engine in is an option, and that is Mog. We did mention Mog at the beginning of the broadcast there, having the new Moogle defense check, and it looks like Javinator is going to pick up on Mog, so he's already at 5 characters there, and he's going to see what's inside of the general store. So Setzer opens up the Coal Engine in either the World of Balance or the World of Ruin, because that's where you get him in the vanilla game, and he also opens up Daryl's Tomb, And he also opens up the Doomgaze spot with Search the Sky, since he's got the airship after all. Falcon hit and doesn't, following behind there, also picking up their Setzer, and I'm betting that Boo is also going to grab the Setzer here as well. So normally with Go-Go, if you want to do the Zone Eater check, you will put your party down to one participant and then go do it. All of our runners so far have just inserted Setzer into their party with X Magic, it looks like, instead of putting their party down to one. So that indicates to me that none of our runners are ready to go to Zone Eater just yet. You can Warp Stone out of Zone Eater, and that's the fastest way to do it. So perhaps that's the reason why our runners are shying away from Zone Eater so early. That and the Chancellors that love to throw people off of bridges, right? That's always fun. Navinator, meanwhile, in the world of Balance, Narsh, which is where you activate Lone Wolf, which is one of Mog's checks, and then I mentioned the Moogle defense is actually the other check there. So we'll see if Javinator decides to take the walk all the way up to Lone Wolf, and he can do Kefka at Narsh while he's at it. Falcon Hit is getting trolled by some NPCs there. Get out of the way, please! We do have a setting that allows you to yeet the NPCs out of the way with Y, and there's that offering there in the clock that Javinator did pick up on. Boo is picking up his 5th character Mog there as well. Did I screw up the sync of the times? I think I might have. So let's unsync Javinators by 1 second, and let's get it all synced up here. Or at least try to. Try to make the viewing experience as best as I possibly can. So it looks like he's heading up in World of Balance Narsh. He will pick up what is at Lone Wolf. So Lone Wolf will give you a check between a character, Esper, or item, and another high-tier item. So you could actually make a choice here, and you could find the other set of that choice in the World of Ruin Mines, which you can warp out of. Taking off the Mogul Charm here at the top of Narsh will get him into a couple of more grind fights. Choosing the Aspic Rage, so this will give you Bolt 3. It's a pretty nice one if you're in need of some lightning magic. Actually, I think it's called Giga Volt. It's not exactly Bolt 3, but it's the same spell animation and power. And oh, jackpot! Boo is in World of Balance Thamasa, and he's finding some Super Balls. That's really, really nice to see, especially with a Go-Go start, because Go-Go can mimic any item in your inventory, and you don't even have to have it in your inventory when you try to mimic it. So he'll probably throw one Super Ball at a boss and mimic it with Go-Go until ad infinitum end of time. So that will definitely change the routing up for Boo there. With Super Balls, they do a random amount of damage as a multiple of 256 to a random amount of targets. So that's very good to find some bosses here. Keith discussing his unluck with the RNG for Super Balls. Yeah, 256 is the lowest amount of damage you could have, with I think 8,196 being the maximum amount of damage that a Super Ball will get you. And the only reason why I know that, I'm a computer programmer and I deal in multiples of 256 all the time. So essentially that's 8K. Dozeny is going to pick up his Mog as well, substituting Mog into the party here. That is a merchant sprite there at Kefka at Narsh, so that means that this is not going to be a character. This will either be an Esper or an item, and doesn't find some warp stones here in the Kolingen town, so that may press him to do certain checks over the other. Falconet also gets his Moogle. And Strago is up at Lone Wolf. Wow, very heavy on the characters right away in this seed here. It is a Snow Muffler as the other choice. Let's see. Javinator decides to grab the old man, and he's already at 6 characters. So usually in Worlds Collide, the characters that you acquire will lead to more characters in their decks. So it's not surprising that, Celeste leads to Setzer, Setzer leads to Mog, Mog leads to Strago. That's normally how things go. The seed is deeper than it is wide. As Boo is at Esper Mountain with a soldier sprite running around, so this will not be a character. This will be an Esper an item. And it is Dullahan, the boss of Daryl's Tomb, which is where Doesn't-He is at the moment. He's got the Moogle Charm off, and he's run into a Black Dragon, and oh no! Level question, Pearl. F's in the chat for Boo there. You hate to see it happen. That's awful. Thank goodness that it's not a very far walk back to that spot if Boo decides to take that on. However, he's going to have to get some either money or some levels. So level question Pearl will hurt you if your levels are divisible by the ones digit of your gold. So you either have to get some money or get some levels. Falcon Hit, knowing where or purchasing some of the warp stones, is going to head to Zone Eater, picking his party down to 1. And Doesn't is doing a little grinding there. The Black Dragon was much nicer to find. Those are undead enemies, so you could just toss a Revivify at it. Boo, meanwhile, decides to search the skies, and unfortunately, this is a multi-part boss, which is not as nice when you have something like Super Balls. Because Super Balls, remember I mentioned, will deal a random amount of damage to a random number of targets. Falcon Hit sneaks past the Chancellor there in Zone Eater, so that is the worst part of this down. He takes a little safety save before going into the collapsing roof, and Jabinator is grinding on his way to Kefka at Narsh here. So he has more than 4 characters, so that means that he can take a full party of 4 to the Kefka at Narsh boss. I usually like to only have Kefka at Narsh when I have 5 or more characters. And there's the Super Ball there doing 58-88, but to the wrong part of the boss. Come on, Go-Go. Get your targeting down. And unfortunately, Realm is raging, so he can't mimic that. Meanwhile, that is Sabin in the Zone Eater with Sketch. So already we have seen at least 7 characters in this seed combined with all of our different runners. This is pretty insane. Single Warp Stone there for Falcon Hit. So Sabin opens a bevy of different world events. He opens up the Imperial Camp, where Kefka poisons Doma in the vanilla game. He opens up Barren Falls that you jump off of, the Phantom Train, the Collapsing House, and I'm missing one. What am I missing? Oh, Mount Cults, that's correct. Meanwhile, got poisoned and doesn't have a way to clear it as of yet, so you're going to see a little shaky screen. And speaking of shaky, Boo's fight over there in the sky was a bit shaky as one of his characters died. However, he is the first person in our race with a piece of Magicite. That is Tirado there. So we'll see if there's any good spells on it. Unfortunately, the person that's dead doesn't get the XP. So that kind of feels bad there. Falcon Hit is heading right to the Imperial Camp. So in the Imperial Camp, there are 4 forced encounters and no boss here. So it's often a palpable check very early on in a seed because it will get you some levels underneath your characters and you don't have to go and fight a boss. So this is usually a really nice one to go and get early. Monster in a Box with some PM Stalkers. This is one of the better ones to find because they are all undead. You can drop some Revivifies on them. So both Falcon Hit and Doesn't running into the PM Stalkers here, as Boo is going to follow Doesn't into Daryl's Tomb. Yeah, so we know where 7 characters are already in the seed. One of the nice things about Worlds Collide is you could actually take many different routes to beat the game. This isn't like a key item hunt like most randomizers are. So all you need to do is get 6 characters. And there's yet another character. The inscription of the tomb says Edgar sleeps here. And unfortunately it's Tritok. So Tritok can only be damaged with fire or non-elemental magic. And it looks like Doesn't is choosing the Siegfried Rage, which is Flare. We do have the IO Rage, which is Flare Star. That is a fire-based spell. However, Flare also works. That's going to suck. Realm is now frozen, so she can no longer attack the boss until she gets unfrozen. The only way to do that is with a fire spell, and I don't think he has any fire spells yet. Meanwhile, Javinator is fighting over on the right-hand side with Niles and Frazier, the Cranes. Or I guess that would be just Frazier left, because, yeah, that's the Crane. Unfortunately, Boo's summoning Tirado. Tirado is an Earth spell, and Earth spells will miss floating targets. Those PM Stalkers are floating, and oh my god, it's another character, Terra! Holy cow! Level 30 magic, however, is not something you want to see. They will cast some nasty spells, as you see there, and they will only reward MP when defeated, not XP. So people will tend to run away from them, and oh man, Doesn't is just having an awful go of it over there on his side. At least Gogo decided to continue casting Flare, but if Gogo gets frozen here, I'd have to believe that this is going to be a reset. Davinator, meanwhile, takes out the Cranes and is rewarded with the Siren Esper. That's a really nice one to see. That will nullify one of the parts of Tier 2 of Final Kefka. And yes, we're already talking about Final Kefka, because as our runners go through this speed, the final boss is always the same thing, so we have to prepare for it. And Siren is a great Esper for us to find. So yes, I believe altogether we found 9 characters, and Javinator is showing us off the new Moogle defense check here for Mog. Once you do Kefka at Narsh, you get teleported down to Arvin's house, and if you happen to have Mog as well, then you could go right into the Moogle defense, and there is doesn't 6-character Edgar after defeating Tritok. It's a very long Tritok fight there. I did not see what Edgar had, but it was good enough to be put in the party. Meanwhile, that is Terra for Falcon Hit as his 7th character. So the only characters we have not seen thus far are Umaro, Shadow, Cyan, and Gao. And there's one more, right? Because there's 14. Missing one. Cyan, Umaro, Shadow, Gao. There's one more. Anyway, somebody's screaming at me right now of which one it is. Oops. And it's Dataluma or Javinator here at the Moogle defense. And Locke, there it is. Thank you. Yeah, one of the important characters. It looks like Terra has Dance. And that dance actually looked pretty good. So the dance abilities are all randomized and shuffled. So they're not the same as they are in vanilla. So Earth Blues is maybe not the best dance, depending upon what you get. And Boo was able to take Tritok out a lot quicker than Doesn't, just because of the RNG. Doesn't says, I'm sick of characters. Let me try and get an Esper here. And he goes for Search the Sky, which can only be an Esper or an item. Falconet, meanwhile, diving off of Barren Falls. Boo gets his 6th character with Edgar. Good enough to put in the party. Sometimes people hedge their bets, because Edgar can not only equip the best swords in the game, he can also equip the best lances in the game, so he can either be a swordsmith or a dragoon jumper if you run into those particular things. Doesn't in trouble with Gogo and Realm, but is raging and using the Aspect Rage, as I mentioned earlier, is kind of like a Bolt 3. Oh, he picked a different rage, so that is Storm. That is not very useful because number 128 it's healed by ice. Javinator, meanwhile, does take out Dataluma, and he gets a 2nd Esper there. Unfortunately, without a Warp Stone, he's got to walk all the way out. Boo did go up to the Figaro throne, and he got an Esper as well. So now our runners are starting to get some Espers. Meanwhile, Falcon Hit gets doomed diving off of the Barren Falls. So you might be asking yourself, oh my god, that is a late game boss. How is Falcon Hit going to be able to deal with it? Well, in Worlds Collide, we will scale our enemies based on how much progression we have. So since Falcon Hit has 7 characters and 0 espers and 0 dragons. His enemies are all level 14 because it's 7 times 2. So that's sort of how it goes with regard to with progression. And Falcon has found a dance that he likes with both Wump and Landslide on it, so that's really nice. Fire Rod coming out for Celeste, and he doesn't have Go-Go to mimic it, but Fire Rod is one of the bad nightmares of Doom, so that's why that worked. And we're on the second phase of Doom, where spells get reflected and physical attacks get thwarted by the image status. So that's why he's digging into the bag of tricks for some AoE spells like IO, which will work, and some dances, which cannot be reflected either. Davinator, meanwhile, at Esper Mountain, sees that it's a soldier sprite and decides to continue onward because he already has 6 characters. He's got the Moogle Charm off, so maybe he's not feeling his levels a bit. Doesn't, meanwhile, is struggling against number 128 up in the sky, finally getting the Lightning Rage to do what it's supposed to be doing. Unfortunately, Edgar is down and out here, and it looks like Mog is headed up in the air. So he, at some point, got a lance and a pair of Dragoon boots, perhaps, for Mog, or maybe Mog had natural jump. I wasn't sure. So this is quite unfortunate in that Realm is healing the boss more than Go-Go and Mog are hurting the boss. So you have to wonder, at what point do you just say, oh, I picked the wrong rage, and then reset, right? Monster in a box in the classroom is nothing we really want. Mog, it looks like, his health, so that means that must have picked up a set of Dragoon boots somewhere. Mog also can equip basically any lance, so he's a good candidate for somebody to be jumping up and down. Long fight for Falcon Hit here as he's trying to carve up Doom, who that second phase of Doom can get very nasty because of the reflect in the auto image status. However, he makes it through. Let's see if Javinator gets the same trouble that Boo did with the level question Pearl. Oh, it looks like he did. Yikes. You hate to see it. That's awful. All right, so that's finally Esper number 1 there for Doesn't. Meanwhile, that is Locke at the bottom of Barren Falls. Yeah, I think the skip is going to happen on this stream here, folks. Strength +2, by the way, on that Torado Esper, so that's really nice for characters that have physical attacks. All right, so that is a reset there from Javinator off of Dullahan. That level question Pearl hole was just a bit too much to dig out of there. So both Blue and Javinator having trouble with Dullahan. Meanwhile, Doesn't is going to lean into the Edgar checks, and Falcon Hit is headed to the Imperial base in the Cave to the Sealed Gate. This is one of Terra's checks here. Very lucrative pieces of treasure down here in the bottom. There's 14 chests and stoves, I guess. That can be randomizers, a cat hood, so that's at least something good that came out of these chests. So we did see an imp sprite over on Doesn't screen leading the charge. So this will not be a character, which is good for him because he needs the Magicite at this point. Boo, meanwhile, is heading up to the top of Norsh, and this looks like he's going to be doing the Mog Kefka at Norsh loop. Is going to be disappointed to find Strago here. We'll see if he takes the Snow Muffler or if he decides to take Strago instead. Meanwhile, Falconet continuing on to the Cave to the Sealed Gate. It looks like Boo is going to reluctantly pick up his 7th character here and let Lone Wolf and the Snow Muffler down. And it's one tentacle guy on top of some other tentacles. It's Ultros here on the bed of Doom pasta. Interestingly enough, doesn't seem like he has any interest in having Edgar in his party long term. That's a cheeky 4K damage with that lightning strike there from Realm. Zone Seek is the Esper there, so doesn't with his second Esper pickup. So now he can unlock the Ancient Castle check, which is another one of Edgar's checks. I don't think he checked the throne yet, and the throne we know from Boo is an Esper, so he'll probably check the throne either before or after doing Ancient Castle. So we'll see. Nope, it looks like he's going to do Ancient Castle first. So this is slightly more efficient, but you don't get the Esper right before you go down there. You have to do it on the way back up. That's a Merchant Sprite at the Cave to the Sealed Gate, and that is another Magicite or Falcon hit. And when I say another, that means more than 0 for him. So thank you, Behemoth. Appreciate the kind words there. Again, if you're enjoying what you're seeing, FF6 Worlds Collide is our website. That is where you could generate your own random version of Final Fantasy VI, and you can play it. It's a lot of fun. I play it all the time. Madeline is the Esper there for Javinator, finally getting past that Dullahan fight on the second try. Niles and Frazier, the Cranes, over for Boo here. Yeah, so if you have any questions about anything you're seeing, just drop it in the chat. I'll try my best to answer it. Phantom Esper with Mute and Ice 3, that is a huge pickup there for Falcon Hit. And that was from a Terra check, so I don't know how many of our runners are going to be going all the way there, right? Because Terra was down another rabbit hole that Falcon Hit got that our other runners have not gotten yet. That's, like I said, one of the great things about Worlds Collide. There's more than one way to finish a seed. We'll see if he doesn't grab the dragon, and oh wow, it is Gao! All right, so we're missing just Umaro, Cyan, and Shadow now. So Gao has natural jump and doesn't immediately puts him into the party. He's got natural jump and lore. So in this game, if any one of your party members sees the lore spell, you get to learn it right away. You don't have to have the lore person in your party to witness it. However, this is a red dragon, and he's already starting on the back foot here, having Gao go down, and decides to use a heal spell on a raging character that is using an undead rage. So the heal will actually do some damage. Oh no, it's a disaster. Thankfully, he saved at the bottom of the Ancient Castle here. Otherwise, that would have been a hell of a long walk on the way back. Ooh, that is brutal. All right, so Javinator with Celeste is going to do the Magitech Factory here. Magitech Factory 1 and 2 will only reward Esper item, and since he has 6 characters already, this is a smart play. Let's go to the checks that are mostly Espers. Doesn't, I am not going to subtract 1 and then add 1 again, so here's Gao. Gao's going in for Edgar. You should probably equip Gao this time. There we go. Unfortunately, I didn't see what lures were on Gao. I don't think that we were shown that. And it is the Siren Esper there for Boo, and he's probably going to turn around and do the Moogle defense check, which will give him yet another Esper. So Boo's on the right track all of a sudden after finding 7 characters in a row to start the feed. Round 2 against the Fire Dragon or the Red Dragon, and this time they choose the correct Storm Rage, and oh, very nice. So Gao has Grand Train, which is great. That is basically a less powerful version of Ultima. It hits everything on the screen. It does defense ignoring damage. It's non-elemental. And it's a pretty fast one. And oh no, Realm is confused. Please don't kill the party. Please don't kill the party. She killed the party. Oh man, just some awful luck here from Does It. Falcon Hit, meanwhile, does take out Dullahan for his second Esper. And the Red Dragon is down, but unfortunately so are Gogo and Realm, so they will not get the XP and the MP from this fight. Yeah, Big Guard is, I guess, a defensive rage. I don't know. The best defense is a good offense, in my opinion. Worlds Collide is not a very defensive-minded game, right? So I just don't even use defensive things most of the time. Big Guard will cast both Safe and Shell, so that reduces incoming physical and magical attacks by 1/3. So I guess it has its utility, but yeah, I'd rather just be hitting things. Speaking of hitting things, Javinator has yet another version of Ultros on his screen. I think this is going to be Ultros 4 with Chupon. And it's Dataluma for Boo at the end of the Moogle defense. South Figaro Cave is where Falcon Hit's going. This is one of Locke's checks. This is the tunnel armor check. Locke's other checks include the Norse Weapons Shop and the Phoenix Cave. I don't anticipate we see the Phoenix Cave, but the Norse Weapons Shop can only be Esper or an item, and at this point, that's a good idea. Meanwhile, Boo took a little while to kill Dataluma as he actually called up some homies for backup, but thankfully he ends up taking out Dataluma. Chupon swooping in from the backside over there on Javinator, so he's finally into the second half of this fight here. Just like Kanye and Jay-Z, Cousin's going to check the throne. Going to get himself an Esper there. Alexander. Ultros Chupon fight taking a while. Also taking a while is the Piranhas fight. Piranhas will last anywhere between 5 and 55 seconds. So unlike in the vanilla speedrun where you can listen for an audio cue, you can't really do that in Worlds Collide. You just have to wait 5 seconds at a time before Risopus appears. And there he is. Little offering wing edge action for Falcon Hit. I guess it works. Ooh, Fire 3, Cure 3 on Alexander. So that's a really nice one to pick up from the Figaro throne. Yeah, so far it's been a lot of characters in this seed. We've actually have seen the locations of every character except for Cyan, Umaro, and Shadow between all of our runners. Boo is going to pick up another character down in the Zone Eater. I think this was Terra. Meanwhile, just a Thunder Shield from Javinator, so that's a dead check. However, it is a decent piece of armor that can be used to teach Bolt 2 in a pinch. Magic Power +2 on that Ramu Esper, though, so that's a really nice one for him. Falcon Hit picking up an Esper as well out of the South Figaro Cave, and Doesn't is in Jador, World of Ruin, where he could potentially combo this check with the Auction House, and the Auction House will allow you to purchase Espers, or possibly Esper, or possibly items. Javinator heading on to the second part of the Magitech factory, getting an unfortunate empty chest there while Boo fights with this Chancellor here on the bridge. Falcon Hit got past this no problem first time, but it looks like Boo is having a bit of a struggle there. Finally lets him pass. Collapsing House for Falcon Hit, and it's Ifrit, French Vanilla, over here for Javinator. Does he remember the Rage with Storm on it? That is the question. Because Ifrit can only be damaged by ice magic. After a couple of turns, will eventually turn into Shiva. Okay, that's Blizzard. Blizzard will work too. Very nice digging into some lesser used rages here in this particular race, so that's nice to see. Oh, that's right. It's Sabin here, and Terra is at the Imperial camp. Double Zombones for Doesn't. You can also kill them by just dropping some Revivifies or Phoenix Downs on them, since they are undead enemies. Collapsing House is an imp, so this is going to be either a character or an Esper. Meanwhile, after a few rounds, Ifrit will change over to Shiva, and Shiva absorbs ice magic and is weak to fire. Thankfully, Javinator takes it out before it gets to be that way, because with a rage character casting ice magic, that would heal the boss. And unfortunately for Dozen, at the end of Bowser's Mansion, we've got Poltergeist. So if you are one of the Prime subscribers over on the Worlds Collide Twitch channel, you have access to a very spicy emote. And unfortunately, I think that was another dead check for Javinator there. And he warps out without going to Magicheck 3. So Magicheck 3 is guaranteed progression. However, you have to force 3 encounters, and 2 bosses to do it. The Minecart Mode 7 Ride from Hell. Big guard coming out there from Doesn't, from Gao, before going back into Grand Train. Javinator is going to see the price, $24,000 in the World of Ruin. We already know that it is 1, cheaper in the World of Balance, and 2, not an Esper. Meanwhile, Falcon Hit is going to head up into the skies here for number 128. And needing to find some Espers, this is a good strategy because Search the Skies can only reward an Esper or an item. Boo, meanwhile, is going to find out real fast that Terra is going to be the reward here, and we'll see if he decides to continue on or reset out. Yeah, in Worlds Collide, it's generally harder to tell who is or is not in the lead. Because as I said, it's not like a key item hunt. You just have to get to your requirements. And all of our runners right now have the required number of characters. It's just who can find more Espers. And all of them have 3 right now. Granted, there is a Kefka Tower skip, as that is an Aura Lance for Javinator. I think that would help out his party, although I think it doesn't using Mog as a jumping character. But yeah, as I was mentioning, 9 characters gives you the skip into the statues at Kefka's Tower. So 9 is usually a pretty good number to hit, even if you are unfortunately not finding your Espers. So while all of our runners have 3 Espers, Boo is going to get his 9th character here. So technically, he will have Kefka Tower skip already unlocked. However, he does not have Final Kefka unlocked. So you'll see the KT skip unlock message, but even if he goes there now, he won't be able to fight Kefka. And oh no, Javinator actually accidentally talks to Relics guy. Here's a cutscene you don't want. See, even our top runners make mistakes, people. All right, so Doesn't slogs it out with Poltergeist, and let's see what this merchant is doing. That is Kieran. So for those of you joining, this is Final Fantasy VI Worlds Collide, the open world Final Fantasy VI randomizer, and we are doing a Ultros League race. This is the Mega Elixir division, so all 4 of these runners are in the top division that we have for Ultros League. So these are 4 of the top 8 runners in the entire community. It's a Flame Shield pickup from Falconet. However, he has Terra, so he can go get that Genji Glove whenever the heck he pleases. But right now, a Flame Shield will help him out more because it'll teach him some delicious spells for his characters to use. Doesn't, meanwhile, is in the auction house, sees that there's glowing stones, and decides, hey, let's go buy some. So this is a 4 shield, and this is the $50,000 item. No, it's not. It's a $20,000 reward slot. So in the auction house, there are 5 items that you could buy. The $50,000 item, the $20,000 reward slot, the $10,000 reward slot, a $10,000 item, and an unpurchasable imp robot. So that right there is the $20,000 reward slot. It's either an Esper or a high tier item. In this case, it was a high tier item, the 4 shield. What Doesn't can do is he can go out here, save. 50% of the time, he will get that $50,000 item. 25% of the time, he'll get that $10,000 Esper or item or high tier. No, it's got to be an Esper because glowing stones are available. 25% of the time, he'll get the Esper, and then 12.5% of the time, it'll be that $10,000 item or the imp robot, and we'll see what this one is. Splendid chest. So this will be our $50,000 eye drop. Man, your eyes have got to be real red in order to drop 50K on some drops. So 14 battles on the Cursed Shield, so that's a bit too much, especially this late in the seed. But it looks like Falcon Hit is going to continue onward to Tritok, so that is actually not gated. Oh, I'm sorry, he's in the World of Balance. Never mind, so this is the Welk spot here. So now that Doesn't has purchased those two items, he's only left with the Esper, a $10,000 item, or an Imp Robot. The Esper will show up 50% of the time, and then the Imp Robot and the other item will be 25 and 25 apiece. So let's see which he gets, and it is Fun Baba at the Welk spot here. I like this auction house play actually here because I'm already in Jador to do Owzer's Mansion, and there's a reset, hopefully for Doesn't. Yep. He's already in Jador for Owzer's Mansion. He knows he needs Espers. He doesn't need any characters at this point. And if you buy this Esper early enough and it's got a good bonus on it, 40 minutes into a race, it's kind of on, we're still in like the mid game, but we're mid to late game. But if it's got a good enough bonus on it, you could actually put it on one of your characters. Or if there are great spells on it, you learn it earlier than last. Because most people will do the auction house at the very end of the race. There's another chest, so that's another reset. Fun Baba is E Honda. I could get behind that. Javinator, meanwhile, in the collapsing house, I think? No, in the classroom. Running away from that boss. It is a Genji glove there for Falcon Hit at the back. More importantly, though, that's Esper number 5 for him at the Welk spot. And there finally is the Esper for Doesn't. Yeah, Blanca sort of makes more sense from an aesthetic point of view, but Fun Baba's all upper body and no legs. Boo is going to go try and fight Dullahan again after getting unlucky with that level question Pearl earlier on. Doesn't grabs his 5th Esper there out of the auction house. Somehow Boo has 5 Espers, and I screwed that up. My bad, everybody. So, we've got everybody at 5 Espers except for Javinator, who is on his way up to Tritok, because this is the world of Ruin Narsh, and this is a dragon. So Tritok is actually accessible to anybody at any time. It's what we call not character gated, or an open check. Meanwhile, Falcon Hit, I don't think has Mog. Oh, he must have Mog. He has 8 characters. Oh, he actually doesn't have Mog. Or he's just saving here. A little Merton action. No wonder why he picked up the Flame Shield before. Okay, so he must have Mog. I would have to imagine that most of our runners have Mog at this point. He's like Masamune from Chrono Trigger. Yeah, that's a good call there with that one as well. They are pretty upper body heavy. And Falcon Hit's going to get his KT skip here with the old man. Doesn't is going to get his 8th character. Or at least I think it's his 8th character. I'm not exactly sure. But if we see KT skip complete, then we know it's his 9th. And we'll see if Falcon Hit decides to fight this fight here. And then with the Boogle defense, he will get 2 more Espers. So if I had to pick somebody who's quote-unquote in the lead at this point, even though Boo just got his 6th Esper, Falcon Hit is going to get 6 and 7 Espers relatively fast. So we'll have to see how fast Boo gets his. Oh, and Doesn't lets the old man fly, looking for the snow muffler instead. F's for Strago in the chat. Little gliding grandpa action. Javinator taking down his first dragon of the seed. Dragons will give you a ton of XP, 50 MP, so you basically learn any spell. Their normal drop, which in the case of the gold dragon is nothing special, it's just a crystal orb, and a high tier item. I didn't get to see what the high tier item was in Javinator's case, but I'm guessing it's probably going to help him out here. Meanwhile, this is the Tritalk fight for him. This can only reward an Esper and item, and it's Senior Scrontium Senior Super Behemoth, or as I like to call him now, Sriracha Behemoth. Very spicy. Both runners on the left-hand side are doing their Kefka at Narsh, and Boo is going to be fighting Doom and is not going to be happy about what is at the bottom of this. Because I'm pretty sure this is Locke, right? This is another character. Boo has access to Alexander, though, and in the second phase of this party, instead of reflecting this fire magic, Alexander can't be reflected. That's another battle down for Falcon Hit here. His levels look to be less than what his other runners are, so it looks like he's doing more with less here. Nobody could use a 10th character. All right, so Falcon Hit reforming the party again, and he's probably going to do the Moogle defense immediately, as Doesn't runs away from some of these soldiers. It looks like he wants to get a little bit of extra levels underneath him. The Siren Esper is actually pretty good. It's got Magic Power +2 on it. Yeah, so we haven't seen Cyan or Umaro or Shadow. We do know that Umaro's check will not be a character because you could see the result of the check in the hidey hole in the world of Ruin Narsh. That is Esper number 5 there for Javinator Unicorn. And the thing with Shadow's floating continent is, yes, it's a 3-part check. However, the first part, you need to fight 3 forced encounters and 2 bosses before the first part. And then the third part is 2 forced encounters and a boss, right? So it's a rather lengthy check. And although the first and third can be either Esper or character, right? It's guaranteed progression. They're usually characters, except I guess in this seed where we know where basically everybody else is. So that's why I tend to favor Floating Continent if I'm looking for characters versus looking for Esper. All right, Javinator heading into Daryl's tomb, where he's going to find Edgar. Javinator only has 6 characters, so at least he's not like Boo getting his 10th. But he also only has 5 Espers, so he was really looking for some more Espers. Floating Continent averages like 8 to 10 minutes for completion. So keep that in mind. We're at 50 minutes into the seed. And for these runners, they're used to being in Kefka's Tower in the coming couple of minutes. So with all of the characters that they've run into so far, maybe some of them are feeling a little bit behind. So they might not want to take a check that is going to be so long because of the nature of them feeling like they're behind. Esper 7 for Falcon Hit. And he'll get, Doesn't will get Esper number 7 after this fight. Boo, meanwhile, going to be very disappointed what's at the bottom here. Yeah, the thing about Cyan's Dream is that the first and third part of Cyan's Dream can only be Esper item, right? So if you're looking for Espers, that's certainly more palpable than Floating Continent, which can have at least 2 characters in it. Or at most 2 characters, rather. Wu gets the bad news. I fought this Doom and all I got was a lock. Javinator deciding to continue on here with Tritalk. Does have Meteor, which is non-elemental, and a Flare Star Rage, which he used before, so he can get through this fight pretty easily. Falcon Hit, meanwhile, doing a smart play and heading to the Magitech Factory. Magitech Factory 1 and 2 can only be Esper or item. We know that Javinator run into 2 dead checks here. So unfortunately, Falcon Hit is going to be looking for go mode and is not going to find it. Meanwhile, Boo is going to go down. Is this Edgar or is this Locke? Let's see. This is Locke's South Figaro Cave, so this will be an Esper here for Boo. Javinator, meanwhile, taking down Tritalk, getting character number 7 with Edgar. So that's why Javinator seems like he's so far behind the other 2 runners, because he ran into these 2 dead checks at Magitech early, whereas there haven't really been a lot of dead checks in this speed. It's just been, unfortunately, skewed way towards characters instead of Espers. Esper 7 for does it. And now Javinator will make up some time because Falcon Hit, and I'm assuming most of the other racers, will do Magitech and run into these 2 dead checks here. Javinator looking like he's going to throw up a Hail Mary here and is going to head to the Opera House, although this is the World of Ruin Opera House, not the World of Balance Opera House, so this is not going to be Celeste's check. This is going to be for a dragon. Yeah, so Doesn't is one of the best runners in the community when it comes to doing his menuing. So I definitely look up to him in terms of, you know, what he likes to do and what his tendencies are in the menu here. Thunder Shield for Falcon Hit. Boo is kind of AFK because remember, you need to wait at least 5 seconds, and 55 is the upper end for Rizopus to appear. So Boo just hedged his bet and said, hey, I'm going to wait like 15, 20 seconds, and hopefully he'll come out by then, right? If he comes out at 10 seconds, I only lost 10 seconds worth of time. But at the same time, all of those other animations might cost you more time in the long run. So sometimes it's better to do nothing with Rizopus and the Piranhas than to try and get some stuff done. So both Falcon Hit and Doesn't, looking for Espers number 8 and 9, are going to run into some dead checks here. Meanwhile, Javinator picks up a Ragnarok sword. Very juicy, very nice. Thank you very much. That's what Celeste is going to be doing. And a little Ice 3, Nuff Jigglypuff down for Falcon Hit. That's an easy way to take care of Ifrit. Boo, meanwhile, heading over to the Narsh Weapon Shop, where he was hoping to find Nesper, but instead found a Flame Shield. Yeah, sometimes the best strategy often does not yield the best result. And this is one of those cases where the right play is to do what these guys are doing and save Magitech for the end when you all you need is Espers, and specifically when you need 2 Espers. So we'll see if no, it looks like Falcon Hit's going to use the Warp Spell and get out of here. So unfortunately, no value gained really in the Magitech Factory except for a Thunder Shield, which I know that Merton was kicking around somewhere, so maybe that might be useful to some of our runners a little bit later on. Javinator heading into J'adore for Bowser's Mansion. This, I believe, was an Esper, and there is an Esper in the auction house. So Falcon Hit just slightly ahead of Doesn't because he is already back out of the Magitech Factory while Doesn't is still in it. Meanwhile, Boo is trying to rack his brain as to where his last 2 espers will come from. The problem with having so many characters is you have so much of the world open to you that you have to make the right decisions, and sometimes it can be a little daunting. Falcon Hit looks like he's in the world of Ruin Narsh, heading up to Krythok spot. That can only be an Esper and item, so again, when you are looking for just Espers, you want to tend to gravitate towards checks that will either be something that you can peek or something that will reward you with only an Esper or an item. You don't want to see another character. I don't know if it's choice paralysis. I think, like I said, there's just a lot of options and it takes time to go through them one by one by one by one. Little Gold Durgan action here for Falcon Hit. And that's Ifrit down. Well, let's see. Boo is going to decide to take on the Opera House Dragon as well. It looks like our runners are just trying to, level up their characters here. Or try and get some better offense going for some of their party. Oh, it was Marvel Shoes is the second check in Magic Tech. So Doesn't also decides to take the Warp Stone out of here. So 3 of our 4 runners have gone into the Magitech factory, and all of them have warped out before the final one. It's one of those sunken cost fallacy problems, right? Where you've gotten 0 progression out of the Magitech factory. Do you continue onward just in hope of getting something for it, or do you go look for other options? Doesn't certainly has some other options here in a peekable Esper Mountain. He sees that it's a soldier, so he's going to continue to do this check. Meanwhile, that's a Force Shield as the reward from the Gold Dragon up in the world of Ruin Narsh. That's Falcon Hit's first dragon under his belt there. And somebody forgot to refill on magic power here before this fight, unfortunately. So it is the White Dragon at the Opera House, which is kind of annoying unless you have mute. I know that one of our runners saw mute on one of the Espers somewhere. Looks like Boo has found some Merton protection though, between all of his different characters. Okay, maybe not. Wow. R.I.P. Terra. Well, at least now you can use Merton, because Terra's already dead. Merton is a fire and wind-based spell, and it will damage everything on the screen, including your own party. So make sure you have either fire or wind nullification or absorption in your party. That's going to be Esper number 8 there for Doesn't. So Doesn't pulls into the quote-unquote lead here. First runner with 8 Espers. And Javinator, unfortunately, cannot get through Spicy Chicken. Yikes. That's rough. Because Poltergeist, I think, at Bowser's Mansion is an Esper. So he's going to want to complete this. Speaking of completing, Falconet completes Krythok for the Unicorn Esper. And that means he's 1 away from go mode. All right, so Doesn't puts his party down to 3. He's got dried meat, so he's going to do the Velt check here. So the Velt will either be a character or an Esper. So this is a guaranteed piece of progression. You have to make sure you have your Moogle Charm off, which he does. And you have to have a party of 3 or less, as Chavanier swipes a red jacket off of Poltergeist. Very nice. Oh, and there's Shadow. We've completed the we've completed the family, ladies and gentlemen. The thing for Doesn't is, though, that that's not his 9th. That is his 8th character, not his 9th Magistite. Shadow, thankfully, has a very quick check here at Gal Manor. So we'll see what's over here. And there it is. The Odin Magicite. Final Kefka has been unlocked. Our first runner with Final Kefka unlocked is Doesn't. Now, the question is, with 8 characters, does he go for another check that will get him the skip? Let's see. All right, it looks like he's going to peek one. So Cave on the Veldt is something that you can peek. You'll see the reward lying on the ground before you go all the way through it. So this is a very nice one to peek. He could definitely get we've seen basically all of the characters except for Umaru and Cyan here, right? So you can definitely find a 9th character out there somewhere, doesn't it? It just depends on which one you find. And I have the wrong tracker information. I'm sorry about that. He's got 9 Espers and 8 characters. Falconit, meanwhile, in the auction house, looking for his last Esper, is going to find that $50,000 eye drop first. Going to buy that out. And then going to press his luck. 6th Esper Kieran there for Javinator. I didn't quite see what that was from Doesn't. I was busy pushing the buttons, but since he reset out, that's not a character. And since that's not a character, Doesn't is going to do something else. So we'll see if he goes straight into the tower here, or if he decides to peek something else. It was an Esper in the Veldt Cave. Thank you, chat. And it looks like Doesn't is not going to do one of the other checks that he cannot peek for a character. So where could he have gone? He could have gone to Zone Eater, because that's Sabin, right? I think that's the one for him. The easy one for him. Because I think a lot of the other characters were locked behind that. Because Locke was at Barren Falls. Terra was at Imperial Camp, right? So that would have been the only one that's available to him, given the characters that he has. Esper number 7 for Javinator, and all of a sudden he's right back in the race here. $10,000 item coming up for Falcon Hit. That's quite unfortunate there. Oh, the Imp Robot. Oh, man. Like I said, the Imp Robot has the least likely chance of appearing of any of the items in the auction house. So what I like to do is I'll buy the $50,000 item, and then I won't save and try and buy the 20. Because the Imp Robot still only has a 12% chance of appearing. And in cases like this, you feel awful, but, you know, it's the odds. The odds are just not for you. Javinator taking a spicy play, heading to Ebbett's Rock. So this is some new territory, a new check that we haven't seen. Oh, wait a minute. Doesn't let Strago die? I think he did. Ooh. So what he could have done is he could go to the World of Ruin Narsh mines, where you recruit Mog in the vanilla part of the game, way back where the lone wolf is, and you can get Strago at that point. Well, Falcon Hit here sees the $20,000 item, and he's going to have to buy it. Now I would save after buying the $20,000 item, because the chances of the Imp Robot go up to 25% from 12.5%. So you're way more likely to see it. So my general strategy is buy the $50,000, buy the $20,000, go save, and then try and see if you can get the $10,000 one. Meanwhile, Javinator has 22 and no less pieces of coral to feed to the chest over here. And we'll see what this boss is. This is brand new for us here. And it is Chatternook. Ugh. Not a fun fight. Hey, there's that Esper there for Falcon Hit. But I just noticed it doesn't put yeet in the race chat. So yeah, he definitely could have gone back and gotten the old man at the mine. Which I don't know if the original catfish. The OG. And there it is, unlock final Kefka complete for Falcon Hit. Now, since Falcon Hit has 9 characters, he's going to be able to go right to the statues. So even though Doesn't was in the tower first, Falcon Hit is going to be able to leapfrog over him as long as he doesn't spend too much time buying stuff. And hey, you do need stuff. Speaking of stuff, that is Boo with final Kefka complete as well. Right after the Welk spot, and he decides, you know what? I do want that stupid Genji glove. Let's go get it. And there it is. Falcon Hit, meanwhile, not heading into the tower straight away, is going to fight that Opera Dragon. Since Boo has already fought the Opera Dragon, hey, it looks like Boo has just went from third to first, basically. It's going to be a race to see who can get to the tower faster. Doesn't is basically right there on the switches, though. So this is going to be super duper close here. White Dragon here for Falcon Hit. Will drop its Vanilla Pearl Lance, plus another high tier item, and 50 magic points, so maybe he's looking for a spell. Oh, it's an Experience Egg in Ebbett's Rock. Not exactly what Doesn't is looking for at this point. Would have liked that, about, an hour ago. Now he's over at Fnatic's Tower, so you can peek Fnatic's Tower. It is always a guaranteed progression. It's either an Esper or a character. So if there's a character down there and it's Yeti, oh god, so we know where Yeti is. We do not know where Cyan is. It's like Carmen Sandiego. Where in the world is Cyan of Doma? Javinator going through the Edgar loop now, which is painful because we know that it's one Esper, yes, but it's also Gal. How do you brainwash Yeti? Very easy. Beef jerky. You ever see those Jack Links commercials? Come on now. Meanwhile, it is Inferno. Yikes. French Vanilla at the Guardian spot here. This is rough. Because if you don't win this fight, you have to walk all the way back through Kefka's tower here. Because there is no save point after you defeat the first boss in KP. Falcon Hit, meanwhile, is going to hop in at the statues right behind Doesn't. And this is going to be a great race here between at least 3 of our runners. We're hoping that Javinator can get his stuff sorted real fast and join the others in the tower. Interesting thing to note is that Doesn't has, that is a Delta hit, and he's going to be sent back all the way, to the earlier save point in the tower. So that means that Falcon Hit has now taken the lead. Dr. DT hanging out in the chat with us as well. So Dr. DT is also in the Mega Elixir division. Their time of 138.50 is behind our current leader at 133.32. So far, it looks like first place is still up for grabs, although there's only about 20 more minutes that the racers have to do that with. 24 more minutes, to be precise. As Boo also heads into the tower, Javinator gets his 8th Esper, 1 away from go mode. Unfortunately, he's going to probably go all the way to the Ancient Castle, which has Gal. Dr. DT had Cyan. Where the hell was Cyan? Falcon Hit unfortunately brought the wrong party to that Inferno, but unlike Doesn't, who had to walk all the way back to the tower, Falcon Hit simply just has to reform his party outside the tower and come back into the statues. So that is the huge advantage with the statue skip, is not only do you save all that walking, but if there's a bad boss at the Guardian spot, you're not SOL when it comes to reforming your party here. Falcon Hit hopping back in here as Boo taking on Inferno again. Doesn't, meanwhile, decides, hey, I'm going to try one of these other side statues instead. They can't be that bad, right? And we've got the dabbing Yeti Umara. If you really did get Cyan, then that's funny as hell. Because we've seen literally where everybody else was. No, Ancient Castle was Gal. Cyan could be, and here are just the places off the top of my head that we haven't seen. Opera House, Burning House, Zozo Tower, Mobliz, where else have we not seen? Mount Colts, Phantom Train, Opera House. Okay. Yep, so now we know where all of our characters are in the entire seed. As Gavinator picks up Gao from the Ancient Castle. Gao, by the way, who has lore and jump, so that's a pretty good Gao. Doesn't has been leaning on Gao a bunch. Oh, we also haven't seen Serpent Trench. You're absolutely right. Meanwhile, Boo runs into the Stooges here. I think this is on the right. No, this is the top spot. Boo is able to take out Inferno, and this is at the Poltergeist spot. Falcon Hit, meanwhile, having more struggles with Inferno. So he has to come back into the tower yet again, as that is the third dragon down for Javinator. All right, let's see what's on this right side. Oh my god, it's Atma. All right, these bosses in Kefka's Tower were not fun here in this boss gauntlet. We had Umaro, Atma, the Stooges, and Inferno. Yeah. All right, well, Atma is weak to, well, not weak to, but doesn't like the three normal elements of the game, meaning fire, ice, and thunder. Will absorb everything else. Who gets past the Stooges, no problem. We have access to Ice 3, and that will take down the Stooges pretty easily. Yeah, Boo has arguably the two toughest bosses dead, although Atma's Quake is going to prove me wrong here. We have dueling Atmas here on Falcon Hit, and unfortunately did not get past Atma. Does he have to do this walk again? No, because he beat up Umaro, right? He's saved. Thank God. All right, so now the question is, for these runners, how do they take out their respective parts? And here's the bad thing about getting the Kefka Tower skip. Your enemies are going to be very high level, because you have that much more progression. Falcon Hit has 9 characters, 9 espers, and 2 dragons. So that essentially means that all of his bosses are level 40. And level 40 bosses will do some pretty nasty things. Not that far behind with level 36 bosses. And Boo's bosses are even harder. They're level 42. Although, at that point, you're kind of just pulling hairs. Javinator here heading to the Velt. I think this was an Esper, but I can't quite recall. I think this was. And, oh god, it's Magic Urns. Not a fun fight for the Velt here. Velt with Shadow. Was it? Oh, it was. Okay. Velt was Shadow, and then Gal Manor was the Esper. That's right. I was trying to remember what Doesn't did. That's like an oxymoron, huh? Yeah, so Falcon Hit is past Atma. Doesn't is not past Atma, and neither is Boo. So again, this is pretty much anybody's race. It's who can actually knock out this gauntlet of bosses here. These are horrifically bad bosses in this tower. Does it falling down once again to Atma. And we're at 115. The final Kefka fight takes about 10 minutes or so, give or take. Little nice nugget there using capture on part of Inferno in order to get a flame shield out of it. The two arms will give you a flame shield, and the middle part will give you an ice shield if you steal from Inferno. So let's see if we get the goods. Unfortunately, not on that time. Davinator stares at Shadow for a while, going, "Damn you." But he is going to get his KT skip there. Yeah, so critically doesn't let his Strago fall to death. And it cost him, because if he had Strago, then he would not have had to walk all the way back to the tower. Boo finally gets past Atma. Javinator gets his Kefka tower unlock complete. And hey, with how bad these bosses are going, it's anybody's race now. Yes, Javinator may have picked up Go mode about 10 minutes behind our runners, but guess what? All of our runners have only 2 out of these 4 bosses dealt with. Falconid is our first person, I think, with 3? Or does he have 2? I don't remember if he defeated Umaro or not. But Inferno is down for him. And then he's going to have to get his party back up to fight the Stooges. Oh no, Atma with Hyperdrive. Yick! So at this point, if yours doesn't, right, you have done this entire race. And now you've got a problem where you have beaten a boss on one of the sides, but you can't beat the bosses on the other side. Do you warp out of the tower? Do you go pick up Strago and you come back in at the statues? That would be what I would do in this situation. I don't think he knows or remembers that Strago is back there, but if I run into a boss wall and I can go back and get my skip, that's certainly what I would do. All right, so let's switch up our audio here. We'll go over to Boo, since I think he technically has the most amount of bosses killed, although I'm not quite sure. His audio is kind of strange, though, so let's switch that over to Falcon. There we go. Let's do it. Sounds a little more normal. Davinator, forgetting to put on the Moogle Charm here, runs into some Kefka Tower bosses in Kefka's Tower. Thank God he's got smoke bombs. Yes, yeah, so Boo, I think, just has Umaro left here. And Merton should take care of him here. Very nice. Davinator deciding to fight Umaro first. And we're just left with Larry on Falconhead's screen. So Larry is insta-killable. He's weak to fire. But if he's left alone for a couple of turns, he may also run away. So if you're ever in a situation in the Stooges fight where you don't have enough offense to kill down Larry, just wait it out. He might just run away. And here comes Meteor from Atma. This is going to hurt. No, not as much as I thought it was going to. Let's see if Doesn't can power through here. He's only got maybe a couple of more turns, but his Realm's health is looking a little sketch. Here comes Merton, and hopefully Realm can eat that like a champ. Oh, 40 HP in a dream. He needs to get one more turn off here. Oh, no. Yeah, you hate to see it for Doesn't. Meanwhile, Boo is our first person step on the switches, so we might as well use his audio here. See if I could bump his audio a little bit. It sounds pretty weird, but whatever. It's there. All right, so first player up to final Kefka. So constructing your party, whoever is in your fourth slot will go first on tier 2, 3, and 4. Falcon Hit opting for a reset here, and we'll see why. Javinator, meanwhile, did take out Umaro, and now he's got to go up against Inferno. So remember, boys and girls in the chat, the time that we are looking to beat is 1:33:32. So that's our current first place time. 1:38:50-ish is our second place time. The Ragnarok was on the dragon no, not Narsh. Was it on the Opera House dragon? It was on one of the dragons. Dozen is just doing a race against the clock here, seeing if he could take out Atma. So Merton is both fire and wind damage, as I mentioned earlier. And Face is weak to fire, and Long Arm is weak to wind. So that is why Merton is cleaning the clock of of tier 1 here. Unfortunately... Okay. So both Long Arm and Fist died at the same time, so that's why you saw the shockwave counters. Javinator gets through Inferno, but just barely there, with Strago stoned out, and Mog on 198 HP. Did Shockwave miss twice? Yeah, that's really lucky then. Validation chest with some Gaia gear. I think Doesn't probably wants to go check that validation chest, because he's been getting hit by Quake an awful lot from Atma. Falcon Hit, meanwhile, is waiting for Umaro to come back down into the sky. Just some absolute nonsense we've seen thus far in the seed. And Boo having access to a bunch of flame shields and Merton means that everything on the screen is going to die. He's got access to mute, so that nullifies magic there. The only thing he has to worry about now is killing too many parts of this boss at the same time. If both hit and magic die at the same time, they could do this really nasty combo of quarter followed by 10 hits. So we'll see if Boo decides to just keep using Merton with Reckless Abandon, or if he decides to use a surgical scalpel here for this fight. That is, I believe, Falcon Hit's last boss down. Over there with Umaro. Meanwhile, Javinator is stuck fighting just Larry now. Larry is instant deathable, so he decides to pull out the chainsaw. Will we see the proc? No, that was not the 1 in 4 chance that chainsaw decides to proc instant death. Meanwhile, prayer hands up for Dozen as he finally gets through that Atma spot. Go give our runners a follow. It's Dozenty with a Y on Twitch, Javinator, Boo the Runner on Twitch, and Falcon Hit, as Falcon Hit is our second runner up to Final Kefka. And it looks like the Mad Lad Doesn't is going to do it. He's going to go get the old man, and he's going to go back in at the statues. I love it. I would have liked for him to do this, before he died to Atma several times, but hey, you got to kill one of the two bosses, and I guess for him, Atma was the easier boss to kill than Inferno. So for those of you that don't know, the opposite choice of what you had at Lone Wolf will be back here in the world of Ruin Narsh. You just have to go either to the side entrance, or you can go behind Arvin's house, and you make your way back into the mines here, into this little area, and you can go get whatever the reward was that you left alone at the Lone Wolf shop. Or check, rather. And there it is, Strago. And that is his KT skip complete, so now Doesn't can go right back in the tower, right at the statues, instead of having to walk all the way back up again. So, Boo having access to Merton means that he cannot damage Girl on tier 3 with Merton, so he's having to use Meteor instead, which is non-elemental damage. It is definitely weaker than Merton, but it's the only way you can hurt Girl, so sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do. Doesn't is overloading his middle party here so that he can go ahead and just simply destroy Inferno and then the Stooges after that. We'll see what Boo decides to do for calmness protection. I don't know if we found Golem or Fenrir. I know that at least one of our runners has Phantom. I'm not sure which one, though. And meanwhile, Javanator is done with Atma, and all of a sudden, this is a really close race between Doesn't and Javanator. Because both have one boss apiece, I think, to go. Unless that's Javanator done with all of the bosses. That might be Javanator done with all of the bosses. So he's right behind Falcon Hit, who is just finishing up Tier 1 now. And Doesn't is taking on the foe Inferno that gave him so much trouble earlier in Kefka's Tower. Here comes another Merton out from Boo. So we'll see what he decides to do here. He's out of magic, but he's got Phantom. So he's going to try Phantom as a form of calmness protection. Now, when you have Phantom, every physical attack will miss, but every magical attack will always hit. And you cannot use Merton with Phantom because, unfortunately, Phantom will nullify that Vanish effect. But excellent job there from Boo using the Ragnarok in order to defeat Sleep with that one hit. That was a gutsy play because if Sleep decides to cast Meteo, if that wasn't enough damage to kill him there, and with only 3,200 damage, that was really a hit or miss play there. So under 10,000 HP, that's when Sleep will counter with either Train or Meteo after every attack. So that was definitely some risky business there for Boo, but it paid off for him. And hey, sometimes in Ultros League, you got to do some risks if you want to get the reward. So let's go, Boo. He is still on pace to be first in this race. Remember, 1:33.32 is his time to beat. Falcon Hit, meanwhile, up to Tier 2. Javanator, who was behind for a lot of this race, is all of a sudden on Tier 1 as well. And he has access to instant death in the form of Break, so his Tier 1 fight, assuming that it doesn't miss again, will actually end up going faster than Falcon Hit or Boo's, because they did not have access to instant death, but it looks like they've got access to Merton, and everything dies when it's Merton time. Here comes the charge up for Goner for Boo. This is the time when you could pump as much damage into Kefka as you possibly can. Time to take off those shields. Time to hit him with everything you got here. And the only problem is if he takes off these flame shields and Kefka survives, he can no longer afford to use Merton after the Goner comes out. And Goner's going to do a lot more damage with the shield off, so let's see if the strategy pays off for him. Oh, Goner comes out. So with Goner coming out, that's going to hurt two of his party members a lot more. The ones that have had the shields off. Thankfully, he's got access to health, and he's got one flame shield in the bag. It looks like he's just going to go for it. The danger here is if Kefka's under 10,000 HP, he can counter with Ultima, but it looks like one more swing might be able to do it. Oh, plus the flare proc. Let's see if this is enough. Oh, there it is. Wow, risky business from Boo. Risking an Ultima counter there at the end by throwing the shield and getting the Ragnarok swing. Get your GGs in chat for Boo, the runner. He is in first place, 129.23, and that's good enough for first place in this week's race so far. So we'll see where our other runners decide to finish. Meanwhile, Falcon Hit, speaking of finishing, is close to finishing as he's on Tier 3. Javanator moving up to Tier 2. And the Three Stooges for Doesn't is the only thing that stands in his way. Yeah, so Boo currently being in first place has the chance of picking up 9 points for this week. So there still are a couple of other runners that have to run this race. Both Ficta and Season 2 champion Kurgzy still have not entered a time in there. But as it stands right now, Boo would be able to increase his 4th place lead with 7 points. He's going to get 9 extra points, and that will put him at 16 points, which is 1 ahead of where Falcon Hit is now, and 3 ahead of where Dr. DT, who is in the chat, is. We're joined by Boo, however, in the booth. Congratulations on your first place victory, 129-23. How do you feel?
Oh, thanks. And a little weird. That was a very messy run. But I guess it was messy for everybody, so I'll take it.
Yeah, what a mess indeed. So a lot of characters up front in the seed. You were the only one that got to 10. Everyone else did, however, get to 9 and get to the skip. So when you're forced with a lot of characters early on in the seed, is that something you generally like because you're like, oh, I could probably get my skip sorted, or do you dislike it because there are just that many more choices?
Yeah, that's what happened to me this seed. Like, it felt like every time I got a new character, I changed my plan. Like some new checks opened up or a new strategy, or when I tried to get a new strategy online. And so that's the messy part. Normally I like it, but maybe not that many. I had like 9 characters by the time I had 3 espers or something ridiculous like that. So
yeah,
it becomes choice paralysis, and then just altering the plan instead of sticking with something. And if I hadn't found those elemental shields for sale, I don't know, I would probably still be in the tower, I would imagine, because my offense was just garbage. And so once that locks check was dead, I was like, all right, I got to go shopping. Like, I got to find something, because I have terrible casters casting Fire 3, and that was it. So yeah, that worked out pretty good. And then a Ragnarok right after that. Sure wish I had checked those 2 things long before 55 minutes into the seed, but
well,
we got it done.
Much earlier on in the seed, you had a bit of a rough start where Dullahan decided that Level Question Pearl was going to boot you back to the title screen. That's got to hurt.
Dude, Level Question Pearl has never missed me, like, ever in the history of this game. As soon as he started casting it, I was going to just hit the reset button. I thought, what are the odds? And sure enough, 100%. Yeah, but it's cool. I exacted my sweet revenge later on.
Oh, for sure, and it was definitely sweet because that was one of the precious espers that you needed there.
Couldn't find,
Yeah. So with regard to the lack of offense there, Merton was basically what you were doing in the final battle. However, on tier 3, you had a bit of a conundrum where you had Phantom. Which means that, hey, I can't use Merton because that'll clear my Vanish status. So you went for it, swinging with Celeste. She only did like 3,300 damage, but it was thankfully enough to trigger Calmness. So that was some really nice Phantom Calmness blocking strats there from you.
Yeah, thanks. I panicked a little bit because I kind of realized, as you said, like right as I was about to cast, I was like, wait a minute. I can't Merton, and I don't know if another spell is going to do enough damage to not trigger a counterattack, like to send it right to Calmness. And so I decided to do, I don't remember, I did something else first to see if I could eat. Actually, I think what I said was, I'll just eat it, and just started casting. But then it didn't kill him, so I was like, oh, well, he's got to be close now. So that's when I went for the Phantom cast, and I was just waiting for me to cast Phantom, and he immediately cast Media. I got lucky for once.
All right, well, crack pow, boom bam, wham bam. Falcon Hit 134.22 is his time. That's good enough for 3rd place in the division overall. Sorry for spoiling it for you. You do have the first place time in your division, which is really awesome. So, but yeah, so then at the very final part of Kefka, you decided to throw off your shields that are protecting you from Merton, and Goner goes off. And then you're like, you know what? I'm going to throw this shield anyway and hope I don't get ultimate. And it wasn't enough to kill him at that point where you're like, oh God, what do I do?
Yep. I miscounted somehow. Well, I'm not not very good at counting, and counting was never my strong suit.
No,
And
math
once
is
I threw
hard.
that shield, I was like, "Ooh, wait a second!" And then he didn't die. I was like, "Well, he's got to be close now." And then I remember I was like, "Well, Celeste only hits for like 3,000, so that was a gamble." Yeah, if he had cast Ultima, I was toast. I could not tank it. All my characters are under like 2,200 HP. They would all be dead. So I'm really glad
Especially
that
without
worked.
the shields on, too.
Um,
Or some of them didn't have
also,
shields.
yeah. Well, I mean, Ultima ignores defense. I don't think a shield would have done anything at that point.
True.
So,
True.
but I also want to point out I was using Rage on Realm for like the first 40 minutes of the seed, and I think she cast Meteor like 3 times. Rage.
Yeah, we saw
10% proc rate.
We saw a lot of different rages come out and useful in this seed. We saw Aspic for some lightning magic. We saw Siegfried for flare. We saw Io for flare star. Behemoth for meteor. So just rages all over the place. So interesting utility that was being used. There was another racer, I think it was Doesn't, who accidentally used the rage that I always think is Pearl, but it's not. It's Storm on Doom. So his one rage user was damaging Doom, and the other one was healing it. So it was like a back and forth battle.
Oh yeah, my Doom fight was crap also, because all I had was, I think, Fire 3 casts and nothing else. And once he puts up that Reflect, then I had to rely on a Rage again, which I chose Meteor again, because I don't know what most of those things do.
Yeah.
I didn't want to sit there trying to read real hard. I was like, Meteor works. And then I think she cast it like 1 out of 9 times.
Well, listen, Boo, you are no reading, no arithmetic. You're just, I want to go as fast as humanly possible. And it worked out for you this seed. So again, congrats on your first place time. Any other thing you want to point out that you thought was cool that you did in this particular run?
Once again, the go-go check sucks. Standing there waiting for that dude for like felt like about 25 minutes.
Forever.
But other than that, no real complaints. So yeah, GG's. Thanks for hosting, and thanks SpeedGaming for hosting. Thanks to you for calming and tracking and probably doing everything else. So we appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem, Boo. Thank you for allowing us to rebroadcast you. As unfortunately, Javinator loses Celeste and Mog to calmness there.
Ouch.
Oof. So let's see how he continues on. Did you ever think about letting Strago just die off of the cliff?
Me? Off the cliff? What?
Yes.
Just die. I mean, I always think about just letting him die. What are you talking about?
Strago, did you ever think about just letting him drop off the cliff at Lone Wolf? Or did you not go there?
Oh, at Lone Wolf.
Oh,
sorry,
no, you did
I was
go there.
thinking like, what, you mean like pitch him over Barren Falls? I don't know. No, I absolutely did think about it. It was just the other choice. I think, what was it, like a Genji glove? And I didn't have any weapons, so I was like, what am I gonna do with that?
Yeah, I think it was like just in case or something.
Yeah, so I thought just in case, I'll take the old man in case things really go sideways. And at the end, I went and grabbed. Yeah, it was a Genji glove because I grabbed it after I found Locke at a stupid dead check and stupid Narsh, and so I went and sold it to buy. What was I going to buy? Oh, snow mufflers. I got snow mufflers right at the end.
And the flame shields and all that fun stuff.
And the flame shields, yeah. So yeah, once we got to about an hour in, it was good.
Very nice.
It was the first hour that was dicey.
Well, with the first place currently, if all things stay the same, you will get 9 points, which means you will leapfrog over Falcon Hit at the moment, although he is technically in third place, so he'll get some more points, but you'll be moving on up in the standings, which is always nice to see. So again, congrats on your time.
Out of my fourth place prison.
Thank you for allowing us to broadcast you again, and good luck with the rest of the season.
Thanks. Catch you later.
Bye-bye. All right, so here we've got Javinator, who is going to be eating a goner. His 2 scrubs off the bench have 1 HP. Not a big deal. Now it's just a slog, just to see if Javinator can persevere with the 2 characters that he's got left up. So this is a bit of a dance here between him and Kefka, as Kefka will counter unless he's charging up for goner. And we are joined by our second place finisher in the race, Falcon Hit. Congratulations on your finish. GG's.
Thank you. I want to say that
you like characters.
yeah, starting 8-0 is like the worst thing, I think, because you don't really get much stronger because you don't like learn spells, right? In my opinion, spells are like how you get through the early game. And when you start 8-0, you're just like enemies are getting stronger, but you're not in that sort of situation. So I was like, oh man, maybe I should just do like early auction house. I decided not to. But...
Well, you did eventually go to the auction house for your last Esper there, and
yeah, it was like 6th try though.
It took you a little bit. Well, that's what happens sometimes when it is the $10,000 reward slot. It tends to be a bit more annoying. But so when you do get a lot of characters at the start, are you like, yes, I'm going to get KT Skip, or are you like, God, I have so many choices, I don't know where to begin here?
Usually I just do the free checks because like I said, Espers in my opinion is the way you progress, and if you don't have Espers, you're just like relying on hitting them with the fight command, which in my opinion is not a winning strategy. But we did have good commands in this seed with Rage and that dance. That dance was incredible.
Yeah, I saw you pulling out the dance. It had Landslide, it had Wombat on it, especially in that Doom fight from Barren Falls. And Javinator gets that crack pow. 141.34. So GG to Javinator, who is actually pretty far behind for most of the seed. And he ended up catching up because of all of the difficulties you guys had in the tower. I forgot to even ask Boo about the bosses in KT, but he didn't have as big of a trouble as you, or doesn't for sure. So talk about your KT. I think you went in to fight Guardian at least twice.
Oh yeah, so I didn't have Merton protection, and I was like, oh, this Final Kefka is gonna be really slow because when you're just casting like Ice 3, it's a lot of animation time and you're hitting things one by one. So I was like, oh, with Inferno here, I can like do Offering Capture, and I can get my Merton protection because I already had 2 pieces, right? So I just needed 2 pieces. So I was like, the first try I like died because I reset because I didn't have Offering equipped.
Mm-hmm.
So it would have taken like 50 years. Also Lock died, so it's just like not worth doing. The second try, I tried to get a save point by doing Terrace first, but then Amaru just like one-shot me. And I was like, oh, I guess I'm doing Realm. And then Realms was like, it was kind of like dicey because sometimes Atma just like kills you with like a Grand Train.
Yep.
And then you're just like, oh, well, that's unfortunate. Luckily he didn't. And he had more than 30,000 health, which is, it's not surprising, but like, this is another danger of getting skip, but also not having very strong offense. Your KT bosses are just like incredibly difficult.
Right, and we're also joined by Javinator. Congratulations on finishing that one out. GG's with your time.
GG Javinator. Thank you. Oh,
yeah, so
that kick was awful. I died twice to Amaro.
Listen, it happens. I've died to piranhas before in Kefka's Tower when you have just the wrong party there. Yeah, so both of you guys ended up with 9-9 and at least 2 dragons. Javinator took on 3. So that certainly made the bosses inside of Kefka's Tower a lot more difficult than they want to be. Javinator, I'll ask you the same question I asked Falcon Hit. When you get a lot of characters up front, are you like, yes, I'm going to get my skip? Or are you like, God, I have so much to do. What is going to be my best choice here?
Yeah, some version of the second one. It's definitely not a feeling. Definitely not a feeling of joy.
Yeah.
Because the skip is still a risk, right? Even if you get those 6 right away, then maybe you get 7, and then you get a bunch of Espers. It's like, okay. Yeah.
I didn't get my skip after all. Sorry, but your skip is in another castle. So yeah, both of you unfortunately went to the Magitech factory. Javinator, you went there early, and Falcon Hit, you went there when you had 7 Espers. So we were, because Javinator, you were a bit behind the other runners in terms of progression, but we were always like, well, it's because he did Magitech early, right? And got those 2 dead checks out of the way early. And then, of course, the other runners, Boo notwithstanding, also did Magitech and got those those dead checks in late when they were looking for espers. So talk to us, Jav, a little bit about how you're feeling when you don't get that progression in the seed. Are you worried that you're behind now, or are you saying, well, everybody's going to do this, I'll be okay at some point?
Yeah, I mean the one good thing about getting the characters early at least is that at least those are the things that actually gate, right? Like you're in big trouble when you're chasing um, characters when you have enough espers and you're not getting them. So I guess that's the good thing about getting the characters early. But so I wasn't worried about somebody like finding a character necessarily and opening up another part of the seed. But because you have so many characters, there's a lot of checks available to you, and not a lot you can like peek in this particular seed. So it's kind of a weird one that way. Progression wasn't too bad. Like, yeah, there were a lot of dead checks, but it was really, I think, the offense for this seed that was really the problem. From the other times, obviously, nobody else really found offense for quite a long time either.
Yeah.
I took a risk really early because I was like, oh, we got Rage, we got IO Rage with Realm, good Maj Pow, let's just start doing fights. And that was probably a mistake.
Well, you got unlucky taking off the Moogle Charm and running into Magic Urn that doesn't give you XP, right? Like,
yeah, I kept running into Magic Urns and like bombs and some other fire resistant stuff. So there was some bad luck there, but it was just I was kind of hoping to get those levels early and then I could get going faster, but kind of none of the shops gave me anything, none of the chests gave me anything, and so I was basically running around with like Realm and a single earring doing Rage stuff for a very long time.
Yeah, so Falconhead, let me ask you about the Magitech factory. You are at 7 espers, you're like, okay, I could probably get at least 1 from Magitech, and you end up with 0. Did it ever cross your mind, let's just do the minecart ride, there's got to be something at the end of it, or you're like, no, I have better options, let me get out of here?
There is no world that I would do Magitech 3 late, because I think it's just incorrect, right? It's one of the longest checks in the game. I think I timed it at like 5 minutes. So, like, I could do Narsh Dragon and Tritalk, and that's only 3 minutes. So, it might be, if you're not doing it early, you probably shouldn't do it at all.
Yeah, that makes total sense. So, your Kefka fight, Falconhead, went a little bit smoother than Javinator's. You did the Calmness Protection using Phantom, so that was really nice to see and to pull off. And then your final Kefka, you did, I believe, have Goner go off on you, but it was pretty much smooth sailing after that, right?
I didn't have Goner go off on me.
Okay. That must have been Boo then.
I had to do it. I had to do the Goner phase perfectly because I didn't have good bad, or my heal healed for less than I thought, and if Goner went off, like every single character but Realm was dead.
Yeah.
So I had to like actually focus on dealing the damage, which I could, right? Because I had the flame shields. But yeah, if I let the Goner go, then I was probably dying.
Yep. And then for you, Jav, you unfortunately lost 2 of your main party to Calmness there. When that happens, what is your strategy for Final Kefka? Do you pull in the reins a lot on what you want to do in terms of the final part of the battle?
Yeah, definitely the strategy is pray. Luckily, the other 2 characters that came in were alive. So my plan was to use Capture on Kefka and try to get a Mega Elixir to heal the team up. Unfortunately, Celis with that Ragnarok was a decent damage dealer, and she was going very fast.
Right.
But luckily, because of the Maj Pow Espers, the tier 3 magic from Realm and Strago was hitting really hard. So I knew I had the damage. You're really in trouble if you get 2 members gone, and the 2 remaining can't do enough damage to take big chunks out of Kefka. Then you're looking at having to tank a lot of stuff, and do a lot of revives, and it's really easy to get whittled down that way. If you're left with 2 damage dealers, yeah, you got to be a little bit careful, but luckily you can get a lot more. It's a lot less risky, I'll say. So I was glad that at least by the end of the game, with all the levels I got, that those 2 still had big damage output. But yeah, if say both of them went and I was left with Mog and Celis, I think I would have been in big trouble. Neither of them had Cure 3. Yeah, Mog had health, but nothing great. Celis, while she was doing decent damage, wasn't doing enough to carry, and Mog's magic was kind of That would have been a much tougher situation.
Yeah, so any other final thoughts, Jav, before we let you go out of here on your race?
Well, week 3, I've had 2 seeds above 130 and 1 now above 140, so Ultros League can calm down at any time.
Yeah, this one was pretty rough for sure. You know, I had a PB in my last week's seed, so maybe the Elixir seeds are just treating us better here. But it's good to see you pull out and persevere. You are currently in 5th place, and I believe your current time is also in 5th in the race room. So unfortunately, this week is not going to help you move up in the standings, but hopefully the ones from here on out will help you out. So good luck the rest of the season, and thanks for letting us broadcast you. Appreciate it.
No problem. Thanks for doing that, GG's, and GG's Falcon. You know it's a tough seed when someone like Falcon is getting a 134. That's a rough seed.
Yeah.
Right. Thanks very much.
All right.
Wow.
And there it is, Doesn't with the crack pow finally finishing Kefka. Very, very rough for him. He had a real bad go of Kefka's tower. He, I think, fought Inferno. He fought Inferno twice and Atma at least 4 or 5 times. That was yikes. But yeah, so Falcon hit. Any other final thoughts there? Also, excellent showing off the steel strats on Inferno there for the shields.
Thank you. Next seed, hopefully we get some sort of offense. I would have taken a Maneater this seed and been really, really happy, but I just could not find anything. The best thing I had was the Hawkeye, and I was like, am I really going to Hawkeye offering no Atlas armlet? No, there's no shot.
Oh, man, no, that's too funny. So anyway, thanks again for letting us broadcast you, and good luck on the next one and the rest of the season.
Thank you.
All right, and I'm joined by Doesn't. What's going on? GG's. Congratulations on finishing that monstrosity. Had a bit of a rough go in Kefka's tower, huh?
Yeah, Atma just said I wasn't allowed to play the game anymore. Personally came into my DMs and said stop.
Yeah. Well, I was wondering if you at some point were going to warp out, go get Strago, and come back in, but you wanted to.
That was the plan, but I had to have a single lane that I was able to do, and I wasn't. Inferno's odds were even worse.
Yeah. I really like that plan. At first, I thought, hey, he's leaving Strago behind. Wait a minute, that's Skip. And then I didn't realize what you were doing until after you'd already done it.
Well, I did legitimately forget about Strago. I remembered him as I was dropping in, and I was like, well, it's too late now. I'm already in, and that's a backup if the bosses are horrible.
Yeah,
and the bosses were horrible.
Yeah, they were really, really bad. So this seed kind of spit characters at you all throughout the very beginning of the seed. Usually when you get an overstack of characters at the beginning, are you thinking to yourself, oh great, I'm probably going to get skipped somewhere along the way? Or are you thinking, man, I have so many choices, I better pick the right one?
I'm just thinking more like which checks to pick and which characters are optimal. I'm not thinking about skip that early.
Yeah, because you never know if you're going to get it. You might get just one extra character after that.
I'm just trying to figure out which character. If I'm thinking actually more, I've got a lot of choices here for who's going to be in my final roster.
Yeah, so you were one of the only runners to go through the Edgar loop as early as you did to go get Gao to utilize Grand Train on his lore, and I believe you also had Gogo in your party as well.
Yeah.
So a really different party composition than the rest. Usually when you find someone with lore, do you like to keep Gogo around because then they could either mimic it or just use it, especially with Grand Train on the list?
I mean, I like to keep Gogo around just because he's good, but being able to do the Grand Trains there was nice.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. And it's too bad you found Shadow with Throw very late. Otherwise, that would have been really nice.
Yeah.
A really nice addition to your party, too, because I think most of us were just struggling to figure out what the offense was until Boo found, some flame shields in a shop for Merton. Falcon stole some off of Inferno, right, for him to be able to use Merton. And I think Javinator took out a dragon that had a Ragnarok along the way, so he at least had a big sword that he was swinging, whereas, you were mostly relying on Grand Train and whatnot.
I just had, really cruddy magic. I had the offering, nothing to use the offering with. Had no horn, but the rest of the setup for Mog.
Yeah, it was really nice to see you pulling off at least part of the jump strats, at least a little bit along the way,
That was the picking up the boots in the shop there was more of an on-the-spot thing. Oh, I have a lance. This might help me do damage enter the game if my rage pool is awful.
Yeah, the rage pool was pretty decent. I did see you employ a lot of different rages for different situations.
Yeah,
right?
I didn't play it perfectly, but rage, there were some very helpful rages in there.
I think, was it you that did the one of our runners, I don't remember who it was going up against Doom, was using the Ogre rage, which is Storm, and then the other rage, which is like Io, which is Fire, and one part was healing the boss and the other part was hurting the boss. I thought it was hilarious.
That wasn't me, but I was the one healing number 127.
Oh, yeah, yes, that's right. Number 128, yes, that's right. Yep.
No, I clicked Ogre. I forgot. I don't have my reach lock open. I thought Ogre was Pearl.
Right. I think it's O-Rog that's Pearl and O-Gore that's Storm. It's dumb. I can't believe it's one letter transpose difference. Dyslexic people everywhere will get angry about it, but...
that explains that.
Yep, that's exactly what happened. However, it is nice that you do have the rage abilities that come up in the menu, which is nice. But who has time to read, honestly, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, Ultra Sleek Season 3. What are your, I guess, the favorite things that you have that are in Season 3 that are different from previous seasons?
I don't know. It's kind of interesting to me how the status prevention items are now meta.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't find one this seed, I think, but you really want to hold on to a ribbon now.
Yeah.
Because an O something can exist in Marshall's boss pool and just double Zombite. And if you get that in tower, then that flank is doomed unless you have a ribbon.
Yeah, there have been a lot of nasty. There are some times when it's retainer, and if you have retainer with Marshall, you get instantly killed upon.
Yeah, I saw that and I realized that was in the
counterattack.
pool today.
Yep,
like,
that was in my seed that I played in my Elixir A seed. I was like, God, I got to kill the retainers first, and then I got to revive my party, and then I have to kill Marshall in order to get XP on the whole crew. But yeah, that's
at least doable if you find it. Like, probably less likely to ruin you if you just find it in the wild, but if you get that in tower, then good lord.
Yeah. So, all right. Any other final thoughts before we let you go out of here with either the Season 3 or the race in general?
I've gotten really rusty, and I gotta say also that I don't know if it's the rust or people just gotten really good, because this feels like I'm doing a lot worse.
It's definitely a combination of the two things for sure. But yeah, so keep doing some practice runs and keep watching some races. That's how I learn every time. It's by watching or by running. But again, congratulations on finishing the seed. Wasn't a very easy one to do. So GG's. Good luck with you the rest of the season. And hey, you get to drop 2 weeks. So you know what? Maybe this is the week that you get to drop.
Sure hope so.
All right, thanks a lot. We'll catch you next time. Again, thank you for letting us broadcast your race live. Always appreciate it.
Good night.
All right, so that is going to do it for us here at Final Fantasy VI Worlds Collide Wednesday on SpeedGaming. We'll be back next week, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Hope to see all of you there. ff6worldscollide.com is our website if you want to play your own seeds. Excuse me, there is a link to the Discord there in the chat. If Nightbot didn't die on me, and it looks like Nightbot did. So anyways, we are going to be signing out for you, and thanks again for stopping by, and we'll catch you next time. Bye-bye now.